Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me, and welcome to a special review for the brand new Whitesnake box set, Forevermore. This was their 11th studio album when it first came out in 2011, and now it has been expanded to a 5-disc box set, remixed, remastered, reimagined, as he's been doing with all his previous albums. Just came out on September 26th of 2025, and we're going to get into it here. I'll break it all down, do a full review and unboxing of it in just a bit. But if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this with a review for the brand new Whitesnake box set, Forevermore. So the album itself, which had different artwork back in the day, this is what it looked like, and I'll hold the box set back up here. So another thing that David Coverdale's been doing, which is he reimagines the artwork slightly when doing these box sets. But the original album itself was their 11th studio album, came out in 2011, and was the follow-up after Good to Be Bad from 2008. So 3 years on, we're getting this one. It's also the last album to feature guitarist Doug Aldridge, who first appeared on Good to Be Bad. So these are the only two albums that Doug did. Doug had played with bands like Lion, Bad Moon Rising. He was also a guitar player with Dio. He has his band Burning Rain, and then he's currently with the Dead Daisies. So a guitar player who's certainly been around the block, and I think was a great fit for Whitesnake. And at the time, he was David Coverdale's right-hand man, writing partner, all those sorts of things as far as the band was concerned. And the thing is that there would be two additional albums beyond this one, being the Purple album and final studio album, Flesh and Blood. But at the time, the reason that this got the name Forevermore is that David Coverdale actually thought this would be his last album. The original title to it, though, was Guilty Pleasures, which I think would have been a great title, and even probably better than Forevermore, because I think a lot of us thought that would be the final album, and ultimately for it to not be, and now for it to be Flesh and Blood, Flesh and Blood not quite as finite as Forevermore is. But the box set is what we're here to talk about. And so, as I said, 5 discs, which breaks down into 4 CDs and 1 Blu-ray. CD 1 has a remix on it. CD 2 is the album remastered. CD 3 has alternate versions, demos, and live recordings. And CD 4 is Evolutions. Again, something he's been doing in a number of these box sets. And then the Blu-ray itself has music videos and live performances on it. I'm going to pull out each one of them, and I'm going to talk more about that content that's on it. But let's go ahead and start by looking at the box itself. So again, very standard to what he's done on the other ones. My only complaint with the box is that it doesn't actually say Forevermore on the side of it or anything. We get the logo, but then that is the standard Whitesnake logo with everything. So now when I pair it next to the others, this one doesn't say the album on the side of it, which I didn't really care for because the other ones do have the title on the side of it. But it is the same style box set, and we get all the information right on the back side, and it just lifts right off. Again, if you've seen any of the previous box sets that he has done, that's this format. And I'll go into more of what this stuff is that's in it in a little bit, but you get a tour book, you get a poster with it, and you get the standard hardcover book. But there's our CDs, and that is what we want to talk about. So we've got these 5 discs, and let's start going through those and talk more about what's on each one. So this is the remix disc. It's disc 1, and again, you can see how the art is slightly different from there. And where's the cover of this thing? And slightly different even from that. So he basically changes up the art for each of the discs in here. There's our backside. We don't get any gatefold styles this time. And again, they're in the plastic sleeves. Now, just like the last one, the box set came with the plastic sleeves way too long, maybe about 3/8 to a half an inch longer than they should be. And I had to actually go and cut them down because they were all crinkled up and crushed inside here. Now I've cut them to be just smaller than that opening, so mine are going to go in and out beautifully. But let's talk about this remix. So the new version of this, in my opinion, sounds much fuller. The original one was a bit raw for my taste. It wasn't as polished as the 1980s era Whitesnake or other Whitesnake sounding albums. Once he had done those Slide It In, 87 self-titled, Slip of the Tongue, all of that really became the defining sound of Whitesnake, and that's something that most of us fans at least have looked for on all subsequent albums. And this album had it, but just not as much. And so one of the things that this remix does is it fleshes that out and it gives it more of that gloss and sheen. But it really comes down to, I don't think, so much layering up of instrumentation and whatnot as it is that it's just the way that it's mixed. And the original version, I felt that the vocals and guitars and things had a bit more space between them, and it wasn't necessarily good in this case. And I like that it's been mixed more evenly and across the board, which I think gives it that fuller sound. And so I know at least that I'm enjoying this mix much more than I did the original one. When the original album came out, I liked it, but I can't say that it grabbed me. Years later, I got more into the album just based on the songs and everything. But now I have to say that the sound absolutely grabs me. Another thing is that both CD1 and this is CD2, so this is the original album remastered, again, having different art than this. Both of these have a different track sequence on it than the original one. And while this was a good track sequence, I think that the way that they did this here only enhances it. So, for example, the original album opened with Steal Your Heart Away, and now it opens with Love Will Set You Free. And I particularly like the way that it opens. It also then moves into Steal Your Heart Away, as opposed to, it used to go into All Out of Luck, and All Out of Luck has been moved to track 4, and so forth and so on. And there's a bunch of that throughout. But it just actually works really well. So remix and remaster, both of these have 2 bonus tracks at the end, unzipped versions, which are acoustic versions of a couple songs. The ones that are on here are remixed, and the ones that are on here are the original unzipped versions of it. So that is CDs 1 and 2. Now, CD 3 is alternate versions, demos, and live recordings. And I find it interesting that CD 3 is essentially the same art as the original. And so you would have thought that this one, which is the original album remastered, should be in this sleeve here, but it is not. I'm not really sure why they did it the way that they did it, because in my opinion, it's confusing. If I reach into the box and I think I'm grabbing the original album, I would have reached for this. So I thought they were out of sequence when I first got it. Turns out no, because of course the tracks on the back tell me otherwise. But anyway, this one here, alternate versions, demo, and live recording. So 7 alternate versions of songs. Track number 2 on here, which is easier said than done, is a strings only version. A little out of place because it literally means it's only the orchestration. At track 2, there's no guitars, bass, drums, vocals, anything, just an orchestra playing. Very cool. And having thought about that and knowing that he did this on a couple other deluxe editions as well, I'd actually really like to see him gather together those orchestral performances and release that sort of like an orchestra plays Whitesnake style album. And it's always been referred to as the Hook City Strings that have been added, and that's because he records this at his own Hook City Studios. So you could call it Hook City Strings Plays Whitesnake. Put that out. That would be a very cool thing. But I think the real gem of this third disc are the 10 demo tracks that are on here. Not all of them are as fully fleshed out as some of them. Some of them are literally just, they're in the studio, tape is rolling, and David Coverdale talks for a bit. They play some licks, talk some more, play some more licks, working a song out. Other ones are fully fleshed out. None of them, though, have vocals, but they all sound like Whitesnake songs. And I just find that to be the most interesting aspect of this box set. So I sort of feel like those 10 tracks should have been highlighted a bit more on here, but they're actually sandwiched between these 7 alternate tracks and these 6 live recordings that are on the end of this. And what happens with some of these where you've got a number of different things like that is you end up getting multiple versions of one song. So like the song Easier Said Than Done, we get that strings only version, then we get a TV performance rehearsal version, and we get a TV performance outtake version. So you're hearing some of the same songs repeated. Fortunately, they're not all back to back the way some box sets do it, so I am appreciative of that. But I do feel like the live, the demos, and the alternate versions really should have been all separate discs, maybe fleshed out in a better way. I'm quite sure there's more alternate editions, and they could have gathered up more live stuff. Like they could have actually put an entire live show from this tour in the box. But this is the way that he's been doing it for all the other boxes, so understandable, and it's cool. But I do think it's a missed opportunity that we're not getting a full live show or more live recordings, because the live recordings that are on here, which come from Made in Japan, and he just recently did a live box set where none of the material was remixed. But on here, the Made in Japan live recordings, which there's 3 of them, are all remixed, and they sound great. So I don't know if we're going to be getting remixed live recordings down the road, but I'm bummed now even more so that that last box set of live recordings wasn't remixed with how great the live ones sound on here. So that was disc 3, and disc 4 is Evolutions, which I think has the best art of all of these, and I would have loved to have seen that be the front cover of the new version on the box set, just because that's very unique and much more interesting than a change in color kind of a thing. But anyways, we get the original 13 tracks of the album in Evolution style. And again, if you've listened to or know about the previous box sets, then you know what I'm about to talk about here. But essentially, it shows the evolution of recording by starting with the idea or the jam, then it moves to the demo, then it might move to a rough mix from the studio, and then ultimately the final rendition of it. So the start of it could be an instrumental demo that they did and sound like a long intro, and it seamlessly moves it in to the next part and the next part. So when you get the 4 to 5 minute song, it's all of these versions edited together into one performance. And it's pretty cool because sometimes they start off as acoustic demos, but then later become the electric song that we know. And it just has a very interesting vibe, and you don't hear those changes. They do it very well. They blend it or have it at that break where something sounds like it was supposed to kick in at a chorus or whatever it might be, but the evolution of the song. And so those discs are often the most interesting of the discs, definitely the most listenable of the kind of quote unreleased material that you're getting from these things. So definitely enjoying that disc as well. And the final disc, the 5th disc being the Blu-ray, has 8 promotional videos that are on it, music videos. It has 3 alternate versions of those music videos where they're the remixes or the string added edition or something like that. So you could watch that instead if you want to hear the versions from the box set. There's 9 live performances on here, and there are 4 behind the scenes type videos as well, or making of style videos. So a lot of good bonus content. There's not always been that much video content in the box set, but this one here really does it well. So that's the content, and the bottom line with all of it is that it does sound really good. Even those demos sound really good on here. Some of the other demo content, sketch ideas was a little iffy, especially on the slip of the tongue release, but I have to say that what we're getting here is well fleshed out, good sounding material that I can definitely listen to multiple times. So let's get back into the rest of the content of the box. Let's talk about the book itself, so hardcover book like we typically get. This was the hype sticker that was on the front of it. I usually keep that and use it as a bookmark. You see this content here where it shows all the different type of artwork for the album cover. That's going to appear in the poster in a minute when I show that to you. And then we get some good shots of, the band. We get an interview done by Hugh Sim with David Coverdale talking about it. But it's quite interesting because they actually spend a lot of time talking about other stuff like Bad for Good and or Good to be Bad. Sorry. Before they actually get into the Forevermore, to the point that I actually was like, wait a minute, did they reprint the wrong stuff here? And he doesn't talk about the remix at all. Sometimes in these boxes and like the Red, White, and Blues series that he did, he really talked about what was different in the remix versions, and he hasn't done it on the last couple box sets, and definitely doesn't do it here. We do get the album credits, but it is very hard to follow. In fact, here it is, the reissue credits, and either there is no added fleshed out recording where he didn't bring in Derek Sherinian to play additional keyboards or Joel Hoekstra to play additional guitar like he's done on other recordings, and maybe that is the case, and it's literally just a remix, or it's just not noted in here. I don't know. The remix itself looks like it's done by two different people, Tom Gordon and Chris Collier, who get credited with different tracks for the remixes, though it sounds really integrated and even. So if two people did the remixing on here, it does sound like one person did it. So nothing sounds out of place, and that is good. But very, very little information on that, which is a bit of a bummer. And otherwise, not a lot in here to read. You get the lyrics and everything. And then as we get towards the end, we just get a bunch of great shots from live concerts and whatnot. It's a great picture book that shows, the era and the time, especially cool covers of magazines and stuff like that. But it's a good book, fitting for this and covering this. As mentioned, there is a poster. There's usually a poster in these. This one is kind of pointless in my opinion because this one here is just made up of all the different album art covers spelling out Whitesnake there. And is a little bit redundant and not something that was of the time. I liked it better where it was the album promotional poster or a live poster or something along those nature. But this one here is just kind of useless paper in my opinion. But it's there. What's the best part is, and the thing that I have enjoyed being included in most of the box sets, was this, a tour book. So from the era, you can see what everything looked like, who was part of the band, who was a touring member. And these photos do not replicate inside the book, so it's not duplicates of stuff like that. And if you've seen tour books, then you know what this is. Just cool promo shots of the guys who are in the band. I just always love these things because they capture a moment in time. And I didn't used to buy these back in the day. I try to buy the tour books now if I go, but not a lot of artists do them. So it is great to get replicas of those things because I didn't get them back in the day. This one being a modern one, but cool when bands release classic era albums that are 40 and 50 years old and they're putting that tour book in there. All right, so bottom line on this box set, I don't think this is necessarily breaking any new ground for Whitesnake, but it does enhance the original album, and I think it certainly adds to the legacy and does it justice as far as what they've included and the new sound of the remix. Past remixes that David Coverdale has done, I think, have always ended up sounding better. And I would say the exact same for this, but this one here maybe even more so than past ones. And I never specifically had a problem with the original mix, so it certainly wasn't that. But I will just say it didn't grab my ear originally. Could have been the way the album started, could have been the album sequence, All of that stuff seems to be fixed because now, right from the get-go, I am really into this version. So the remix in that regard has certainly done its job. And I think all the bonus content that is included with this box set is quite worthwhile. Granted, maybe only for the hardcore fan, but if you're buying this, you are a hardcore fan because this being a 2011 album, now getting a 5-disc box set, most people would not be doing that for a modern day era album. So I think if you are buying it, you are the hardcore fan and you're probably gonna love this. But I would say that if you're like me and maybe the album didn't click with you back in the day and so you don't have it in your catalog, now is the time to check it out because all the things that didn't work for me back then, in my opinion, have been fixed. So I do think this is now the definitive version of the Forevermore album. And there you go. That is my Whitesnake Forevermore new box set review. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hopefully this has informed you enough to decide whether you want to go out and buy it. If you picked up the box set yourself and you're enjoying it, weigh in. Let me know what it is that you like about this. Otherwise, have a great day and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye, everyone.